It's 3 o'clock, so I will make a start. Today's session is co-hosted with Tony Geary who just joined us. And answering all the questions is Nigel Smith, John Edwards, and anybody else?
No, just the three of us. We're in a very small room. It's a bit cosy.
just in case anybody's worried, we've had a trip down to our chums, Kevin Wilson's, and we're down at Bucks Hill. So don't get worried, Tony. For some reason, oh, he's staring at us through the window. For some reason, we look like we've got a blue rinse going on. So I don't know what that's all about.
I have seen your layout many times at Worley, but it's never been operating, and it was actually intriguing to see it operating on the video. It was a very good video. So absolutely superb.
Except for one small point, Richard, that Andy Hudson of the club, of the Worley Club, did the videoing, and then it was obviously sent off to the guild for editing and everything.
Yeah.
And while we were packing our locos up, Nigel, myself, and Roger Scanlon and various other people, Andy decided to run his Network Southeast Class 50.
Yuck.
And if anybody's noticed it, he actually did a spad. Because nobody was operating behind on the switch panel for the points or the signals, so he went through a signal at danger.
2 signals at danger.
Two actually, yeah.
Right. Well, there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. If you'd like to unmute, I'm quite happy to do it unmuted, so you can ask questions straight away. And you can also use the chat line, of course, if you wish to do so. So has anybody got a question of John or Nigel to start with?
I have.
We're off now.
I have. It all ran very smoothly. So what's the secret of your, probably edited out all the hiccups, but it all ran really well. So what's the secret of that? Is that you've got big capacitors with the decoders, or a lot of track cleaning and pickups?
No, most of the logos are just running on 6 pickups on the locos themselves, and just on the old-fashioned ESU decoders. We are slowly upgrading the decoders to more Zimmos with some capacitors, particularly for the smaller locos. But no, it's just a case of making sure that your 6 wheels pick up, and you know that your pickups work properly. If you do that, we have virtually no problems. The only other thing is all of the locos either have compensation or springing, so all the wheels are in contact with the track at any time. So it doesn't half make a difference.
We did spend a lot of time. I mean, bear in mind, this is sort of got a history from Genesis to, we're not even at Revelation, I don't think yet, but we spent a lot of time on track work and the electrics. Originally, the layout was DC, and we ran that for a number of years, didn't we, Nigel, on DC. Then we attended the York show, and this is going back 15 plus years.
Yeah, about 15 years ago.
And what we did a lash up of a system that we borrowed from Mike Williams. We borrowed some lens stuff, and we ran DCC just on a couple of tracks for for half an hour at the end of each day at the York show. But following that, the decision we made to go DCC, and Nigel predominantly, with some help from me and some from the other guys like Keith Blake, etc., stripped most of the electrics out and rewired it with buzz bars and everything else. The track has always been pretty good, except for we've had some problems over the last, well, we found them over the last 2 or 3 months, but that's because Worley has been shut up, which is where the layout is kept. And obviously it's not been heated in there, it's not been ventilated in there, but we managed to do a few work days down there and resolve those. So the track is pretty good at being as level as it ever can be. And as Nigel said, the locos are typically compensated and are picking up on all wheels, and some of them tender locos picking up off the tenders as well.
Okay,
how many boards does it consist of, John?
How many what, sorry?
How many boards?
There's 8 scenic boards and 4 fiddle yard boards.
Yeah.
So it comes to just over 40 feet in total length.
40 feet and it's an engine shed.
pretty big, impressive one. One of the things I did notice was the amount of detail you put into the buildings, like the loco shed itself, internal details, which you don't often see modelled.
There's a little bit of a story behind that, and that is that both John and Pete Sylvester, who was the other one who started the layout with us, both are structural engineers. So the one thing that we had to make sure that we got right on the layout, obviously, was building. So every detail that's on the real building is on those buildings.
Peter actually on the buildings, and Peter's laid up at the moment because he fell over a week or so ago and he broke his kneecap, bless him. So he's in a leg brace. But Peter, I think anybody who's seen the layout will have noticed there's a lifting shed and a lifting crane, and that he spent a lot of time doing the research from photographs and drawings on the lifting shed and crane or hoist that used to be at Bournemouth Shed. So that's as close as we ever could get to an exact replica of that. I did a lot of the brickwork because I've been in the construction industry for years. I wanted to make sure all of the joints and corners worked.
I did the track work and the donkey work.
Doug, you wanted to ask a question. You had your hand up.
Yeah, I might be missing something here, but I'm intrigued how you uncouple things. I noticed when you did the bit of video where you shunted some coal wagons into the coaling stage area, the next it stopped, and then when it pulled away again, it was uncoupled, and I can't see anything that you used. There's no magnet, I can't see any Dingham couplers or anything. Now I'm struggling on our old gauge layout at the Manchester Model Railway Society. I'm actually struggling to hook up 3-link coupling. So how do you do it?
Doug, I have to say that Andy Hudson, who did the filming from Worley Model Railway Club, he edited at that part. It was the hand of God with an uncoupling hook. No disrespect, but bear in mind that most of the stuff that runs on that layout is locos on their own. We do get the occasional Great Western 1400 with an auto coach on it, and we've had 2 or 3 running, and they park in some of the sidings. But we don't have to worry typically about coupling and uncoupling wagons, except for when we put coal wagons on or pull coal wagons off. So the hand of God comes into play very rarely during an exhibition.
Yeah, it's the same thing. We've got a tanker train that comes on and off for the fuel for the diesels, and we've also got an M parts train as well. So and when those appear, you know, it is we say, oh, look at that over there. Everyone turns away.
What I've tried on my own layout
as well. We have another layout called Eastern, which we purchased a number of years ago from the Hillingdon Group, and that's been in storage. We haven't done the refurb work on that one yet, but that one we do have to do coupling and uncoupling in the goods yard and etc. etc. So, but it has to be the hand of God because we do use 3-link or screw coupling. So
yeah.
John, do you run through a sequence when you're at an exhibition?
Yes, we do, in the sense of it's not set out which loco comes on when, but we always start with we predominantly have mostly British Railway branded locos. Now that could be the early with British Railway spelt on the side, or it could be the early logo or the late logo, and then we have diesels obviously as well. We do have a number of pre-nationalisation locos, although that's reducing in number over the years. And what we tend to do, we work through the eras. So if we're at an exhibition, we would put the early
pre-grouping stuff,
pre-nationalisation stuff on first, and then we'd slowly take those off, leaving 1 or 2 on that could have overlapped into BR, like a Lord Nelson or a King Arthur or something like that. And then we bring some of the British Railways lettered and the early logos on. Then we go into the full logo, early cycling line job. Then we move into bringing on the later emblem. And then obviously some of the early locos like Nigel's Saint and etc. go off the layout. We try to keep them in the right period.
What we try not to do is put locomotives on the layout that couldn't have been seen together. So, you know, a 1953 Saint wouldn't go next to a 1962 diesel.
Or a King with a double chimney. And then we towards the end we leave panniers and a few large prairies, and you know the odd
The ones that lasted through to the end of
right
steam.
through to the end, and we start bringing diesels on.
Yeah.
Although we are bringing diesels on reasonably early, because you know some of the 03 shunters, some of the early Western stuff, as in the early warships and the D8, they're coming on while there's still steam there. So we work through and then the interesting bit is we then end up with all of the diesels on the layout, but we have to jump back.
That's the preservation
50 years
area.
to get the early stuff back on. So,
how many locos do you have at your disposal to put on the layout?
Well, with all of the, you know, if everybody turned up with all of their locos, it'd be round about 300. But
Quite a choice then.
yeah, we try to keep it down to around about 100 at any one show.
it's really space, and we're not talking about space on the layout so much. It's at an exhibition we need at least 3 large 6 foot long or bigger tables to put a lot of the locos up, and we line them up so that they're in the right sort of eras. And then there's a load on the whiteboards on the fiddle area, which is a cassette fiddle area, which are going on and off, and then we swap them over and we all move them up the tables at the side, so the older ones go at the end and the newer ones are coming on.
I've just noticed we've got another one of our regular operators on there, Mr. Neeshaw, so feel free to chip in at any point if you like.
And can I just say in advance, John Neeshaw has never had a spadder, so
What's the maximum number of pannier tanks you've had on the layout?
35.
and that will change.
Yeah, because we've got a few more ready to go.
I've got another 6 ready, and Nigel's working through a few more. So we developed something quite a number of years ago, and I think it was it at Aylesbury or somewhere like that, wasn't it? We were at the show, and we started bringing all of the panniers on and putting them all down the end towards the turntable, so they'd be on the coaling road and the entry road and all that, etc. And we call it pannier parade. We tend to do it at the end of the day.
Aber da gucke ich noch mal rein, weil die sind zu teuer.
Somebody needs to mute,
Das sind die 2, die machen 3.500 bis 4.000 Pfund Lokomotiven. Aber ich wollte mal reingucken. Im Moment ist hier so ein bisschen Schnickdall.
Richard. Frank, could you mute your sound, please?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we tend to have a pannier parade at the end of the day, and it really started off with it was late on a Saturday. It was probably about, I don't know, 4 o'clock or 3:30, 4 o'clock, and we started to pile the panniers down there, and then we made a little sign up and put it on the lighting rig saying National Union of Railwaymen strike. And loads of people were coming. We only did it for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Loads of people were coming over and taking photos and going, oh, that's really funny. And so we've only done it for a little bit of a laugh. But unfortunately, one of the guild members came over and he said, this is terrible. He said, I only came to see this layout and this is all that's there. And I think it was Nigel said to him, what time did you arrive today? He said, well, I was here when it opened. He said, well, this has only been 10 minutes in the whole day, but we do apologise nonetheless.
Very good. Any questions from anybody?
Yes. While watching the video, there's a lot of interesting clunking and clacking going on in the background. It almost sounded like a real signal box. How are the signals and points controlled?
Well, the points are on standard little switches attached to a control panel. The signals are actually undergoing a transformation at the moment. We're changing from those old-fashioned type switches to the cobalt levers. So very soon there will be a proper signal box at that one end of the layout. I've got all the levers in stock, so it's just my job to wire them up now.
The part of the clunking and banging, actually, Tony, is that I don't know if you've been to the Whalley Club and seen where our layout is in there, and bless them, we are Whalley members, but you know it's our layouts, but they do allow us to leave it there on the basis that we run it, you know, for the benefit of club members and visitors. But we're on a mezzanine floor, and it's a bit sort of bangy and creaky, and if you run a bit quick, everything, it's like an earthquake, trust me. So probably half of the noise was coming from the mezzanine floor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The shed layout, the original shed layout, well, the layout as it currently stands is probably 60% or thereabouts bigger than it was when we first built it. And it stopped, as you look at it from the visitor's side looking on, it stopped halfway through the shed buildings, and we had a backboard there where the halfway point was, and we just used to run off the back. But as we built more locos and got more stuff together, and we had other people join us with locos, we were struggling for space. Plus, we only had one road that exited at the back to the cassette fiddle yard. There was no exit road at the front, which you will have seen. So that's when we decided we would extend the shed and finish the shed building off itself, and put more roads up to where you see the viaduct going over, and then through into the new cassette area, and that's helped tremendously. Yeah. But even that's getting a bit small, but we can't really cantilever out the layout, the next section of the layout over the side of the mezzanine at the Whalley Club. So I think we're probably stuck where we are.
Well, the question Tony Kells has asked is how long is the layout? I think you answered that at the beginning, but
yeah, 40 feet.
40 feet.
Yeah,
Tony, 40 feet.
Have you thought of adding a sky back scene to it, just to give a bit more depth of height? Because the video was quite convincing in places, and much as I like the guys behind the layout, it'd be quite nice to, I think, with a bit of sky, it would make suspend the disbelief a bit more and make a more convincing view.
It's a good thought, Tony. Yeah. I mean, we tend to operate from the front very largely, it shows, other than the guy in the middle. So it's certainly something that could be done.
That back scene anyway needs, even if we left it as it is, Tony, it needs another coat of paint now, because it's looking tired and looking dirty, and
it's getting on to 20 years old.
Well, yeah, good 20 years old, and I don't disagree with you. We always wanted it to be not too high that you have to then stand on a blooming great, trestle or something to see over the top. But to be fair, since we've extended it and we have this exit road around the front of the buildings, you have to stand on a trestle basically to see what's going on properly. So I think you're probably right. We could do with heightening the back scene and doing some sort of artistic representation of what's beyond.
Yeah, well, even just 9 inches or a foot of blue sky, just add that just a little bit. You could crop the pictures down then to fit that.
Yeah, good point.
When we built it, we did do the poster hoardings, the big ones, which you will have seen, the wrong way round effectively, but the right way round in reality. In other words, they're pointing at the people and the road beyond the back scene rather than pointing into the layout. So, but it does need a bit of a refurb. The back does in some form or other, and an upgrade.
That sort of led me on to another question. Sorry, you can go ahead, Tom.
Is there a plan to index the turntable at any stage? Because one of the entertaining things about running 82G is ocular alignment of turntables.
Yeah, originally it was on proper indexing, and it stopped automatically at each of the points. What we found was in the varying heats of various exhibition halls, it didn't always line up, and you ended up with a derailment. So we opted out that, and what we've done is made the turntable deck operate very, very slowly if you want it to. So you can actually line up. It's pretty easy to do it once you get used to it.
And we do have an eye test at the back of the layout for some of our older people. Those that wear spectacles, you know, some of those we have to have an eye test before you're allowed to use it.
I know some at our club that wouldn't pass that test as well.
What point motors have you got underneath it?
They're all toys point motors.
They're all toys.
Yeah. All wired so that you can't run into the point and short the layout. So if you try to do it, the loco will just stop before it gets as far as the point. It's a fail safe because some of our drivers just don't look at points.
Can I just say, some of our drivers don't look at signals either.
Yeah.
We noticed at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I was saying to Richard before you all joined that Andy Hudson, who's a Whalley Club member, did the filming for us, bless him, but he didn't edit it. He sent it off obviously to the guild, and it was edited by people who did it there. Peter, yeah. And yeah, they sent us a rush of it, and we both had a look at it. We both went, "Oh no," because we were putting our steam locos and diesels away back into the boxes. You could probably hear some talking going on at the very end of the video. And Andy decides to run his Networth Southeast Class 50. And when he looked at the video, he goes, "Oh, he's run through a signal line. Oh no, he's run through 2 signals on red." But there was nobody at the back of the layout to actually change the signals or anything. So we let him get away with that one, I guess. But there is a funny story there. There's 2 of our members, Roger Scanlon and Brian Mallion. They're both members of the Severn Valley Railway, as we both are, but they're also both drivers on the Severn Valley Railway. And Brian Mallion's wife is actually chairman of the Severn Valley Railway. So, but they come and drive for us. And the first person to ever have a SPAD was Brian Mallion.
He's never let to forget it.
Roger Scanlon immediately put him on report.
It's obviously still giving you lots of great pleasure. How many times do you take it out a year on average?
We tried to limit it to 3 times a year, but on top of that, there are the 2 Whalley Club open days as well. So normally, you know, it's operated, at least 5 times a year properly. But now that we're back to normal, we try to go at least once a month to have a play with it. So yeah, it sees quite a bit of use. Yeah. And of course, it's a wonderful thing for testing any new builds on.
Yes.
Yeah. The problem is, Richard, for well, I bet it's slightly over 2 years now. We haven't been to a show with the layout, and I can't remember the last one we did. Nigel, what was the last one we did?
Yes, can't remember.
Possibly Swindon, so it might have been 2.5 years. And then obviously we couldn't get to the layout because of COVID and all of the restrictions. And the Whalley Club Room has got to be one of the best club rooms in the country because it's enormous, and there are mezzanine floors and there's a load of space, but it's basically an industrial unit. So when it was shut up and we couldn't go there for, literally half a year or so, there's no heating on in there. And, we've spent a bit of time rectifying some of the issues that have come because of that. But we haven't been out with it for 2 years.
How long ago did you make this video for the show?
Oh, about 8 weeks ago. Yeah, because again, we weren't allowed into the club room up until then because obviously the COVID restrictions. But as soon as we had permission to go in, we went straight round and made the recording. So it's pretty recent.
They also had a limitation for a period. When we unlocked in the summer for a period of time before it all went pear-shaped again.
Yeah.
It was on limited numbers only, and that would have caused us a problem anyway. Without at least 4 or 5 of us, we couldn't have done some of the work on the layout, and we certainly couldn't have operated much because with 2 people, it doesn't really work, does it?
I mean, when we take it out to a show, really, to get the maximum out, you need 8 operators.
What DCC system are you using?
Digitrax. Yeah, and the decoders from all sorts of different people. More and more now we tend to be leaning towards the Zimmos. Not that because there's anything wrong with ESUs, it's just with the Zimmos. There's so many more attachments, so we're putting in the the bigger capacitors, and that does improve the running of this, particularly the smaller locos.
Yeah, I've gone the same direction myself, moving from ESU to Zemo.
The trouble is, Tony, and you must appreciate this, I'm sure, from what you do, that we started with DC locos, except for a few that were ready to run that we bought that were masterpiece models, etc. Yeah, but we ran them on DC. Then we decided to go DCC, so we ended up spending a lot of money, chipping up probably at that point 60 or 70 locos.
Yeah,
and now obviously, we prefer the Zimmos now because they are more flexible in, as Nigel said. But again, you're talking, well, particularly with the exchange rates now, you're talking over 100 quid just for one of the, the small ones, let alone the big ones. So it's a chunk of money.
Yeah. Well, just keep the old ESUs going until there's a problem, and then switch them over.
That's what we tend to do. And of course, we recycle the ESUs. If they take them out of one loco, they go back into something else.
Yeah. There's always a market for second-hand decoders and things. And I've sold stuff off that I don't want anymore. So there's always a market out there.
Well, we've got a friend of ours who lives down in Essex. I won't mention his name. I mean Gordon, and we normally sell him to him for a very reasonable price, and then he manages to wipe one out within about an hour of having fitted it. So it's a good throughput of decoder.
You can hear the bang in Worcestershire.
I'm intrigued by your technique of not allowing locos to short out if they go against a point.
Yeah.
So is that a clever bit of wiring, or is it done by electronics?
It's on the tortoise motor there are two switches.
Yeah.
One obviously is the in. You've got the two cables in for the positive and negative rail, which powers the frog. If you then take the power from the frog and put it onto the second switch, that will turn the section of track on and off, which comes into the point. So it's quite simple, really. It sounds like it's complicated, but actually it's pretty straightforward. But you have to use both the switches on the point motor.
Tony, trust me, myself, Keith Blake, and a few others hadn't got a clue what Nigel was talking about at the time until he showed us.
Well, I use a second pair of switches as a reporting feed back to the control panel to switch an LED to show the point's been thrown.
Yeah, we've got that anyway. But that still doesn't stop them running against it. So.
No.
That doesn't take the idiot drivers out, and we won't mention any names on that front.
No.
I'm trying not to. No, Ian Rathbone is a very close chum of ours. Mind you, I say that Nigel said that to run it properly at an exhibition, it takes 8 of us. Now, you don't need 8 at the same time, but you need 6 minimum running it. A shed master, you need somebody at the cassette end, you need somebody operating the points at that end and the signals at that end, and then you need the drivers. The other 2 then are for the rotation bit. But even with that, and we do sort of have a rotor that we go through so that everybody gets a break for half an hour or an hour, during several times during the day. But you still finish the day, you're absolutely knackered.
Yes, I found a few layout owners didn't have the concept of rotors, so I soon introduced that because people soon very quickly wear out if you have them operating for hours at a time. So it's like an hour on, hour off, and you get much more effective operation that way.
Definitely.
Keep the audience happy.
We seem to do reasonably well at that. We tend to have, quite a good, crowd around us most of the day. So we must be doing something right.
And at the Worley, not the Worley show, but at the Worley Open days, which again, there haven't been any of those for 18 months, but there's the local show that's coming up in a couple of weeks' time at Worley. What we'll do is there's a lot of you know, families with children turn up, and we've got step ladders behind the layout, which we use anyway. So we bring those around the front, and we'll get one of the kiddies to stand on the step ladder, explain. It takes 10 seconds to explain how the hand controller works, and then they work out every single function on there, how to program it. well, we let people run the locos, so that, you know, we try.
It's quite nice because we can sit down and have a cup of tea while they play.
But it also encourages them. Hopefully, it encourages their enthusiasm for it as well. So, because, you know, this is no disrespect to anybody, but most people, excluding Nigel, has got grey hair.
I haven't got any hair.
That's exactly right. So, you know, we need people to pick up where we leave off, don't we?
You do indeed.
You're not worried about running into child labour problems, are you?
we do quite often have a queue forming, you know, who's going to drive next. So.
Yeah, I'm actually getting one of those caps and a bag, and it's going to be £1 to drive.
Yeah. Right, gentlemen, it's 3:30. Thank you very much, Nigel, for your explanation of the layout and everything about it. Only one last comment I would make to you both is we've now seen the engine set. When are we going to see the rest of the layout?
We actually wrote a date under each of the boards when we built the board, not when we did the stuff on the top of it. And the oldest one is over 20 years old now. Yeah. If you have a look at this, I don't think we're going to get another 20 years worth out of this. And bear in mind, we still haven't finished bits of that layout yet. There's little bits that haven't been done. So
I've yet to meet somebody who's finished a layout. Never finished. There's always something new to add. Well, thank you both very much indeed. It's been great, and I hope the rest of you have enjoyed it.